Hey Edmonton, this is Austin here with yegnation. Today we're sitting down with Bob here. Bob's one of our mayoral candidates. Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're running for this year.
Well, this is the 25th anniversary of myself running the first time, and so I thought there were some issues that we're dealing with today that we were dealing with 25 years ago, and they're still relevant. The discussions are still relevant, the arguments are still relevant. And in as much as I never thought I would do this again, I couldn't not do it. There's so many serious things that have come to pass in the past 5 to 10 years, and thus I'm here.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Well, congratulations on getting 25 years and being involved with the Edmonton political scene. That's pretty cool stuff. The reason that I was really interested to sit down with you and have a conversation with you, Bob, is we're very interested in, as you know, with yegnation, getting involved with the young Edmonton community and getting the interest of young voters young people that aren't voting to get out and actually vote. So we want to start talking to those people here. What's a way that you'd like a lot of young voters to come out and start a conversation with yourself or with other candidates?
Well, the young. The young folks better start talking about something, because we're going to be at a loss here very shortly in a big way. The generational transition is going on. It's definitely a major part of the discussion in this election for me. The young folks don't seem to be informed or perhaps not interested in what's happening with regards to that. But there's going to be a whole lot of old people in a real short time here. Now we're talking 5 or 10 years. We are dealing with things today that we as a generation should have been dealing with 20, 30, 40 years ago, and we didn't. We failed remarkably. And it's going to be on you to do something. What are we going to do? I don't know, but we better start talking about it. I know the failures. I've taken care of an elder now personally in my home. My mother for 5 years. I've taken care of her outside of that for, of course, since my father passed away 25 years ago. And of course, and as well, I've been to seniors' residence, and not once a week. I've been there 2 and 3, 4 times a week, where I was providing an advocacy for my father's sister, of course, and had no children. She was the last Ligertwood alive. So I was there and I saw what was going on there too, and the shortcomings are remarkable. They're beyond remarkable. They're profound, and the effect on you as a generation is going to be profound, and it's going to affect everything that you do, because there's going to be too many of us, and there's going to be no cash, and there sure isn't going to be the manpower to take care of us. So it has to be included in the discussion regarding everything from public transportation to whether we're going to let Daryl Cates have a veto in building a recreation center in Meadowlark.
Absolutely. Those are all very, very important things to be aware of here. Vote. Vote, people. Vote. That's what we're here for.
You're just silly if you don't. We've seen in some of the largest countries in the world how a minor number of votes affect a major decision. In the United States, there was, out of a country of 400 million people, it was a few votes that elected a president of the United States.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you guys know who we're talking about, but these are all very important things to be aware of here, especially to the community that we have with yegnation. We want to be starting these conversations and really talking about these things, because if we're not talking about them, nothing's going to get done. If nothing gets done, we're all going to be in trouble, right? So
you're going to be in big trouble, and again, 5 or 10 years down the road, when you personally are perhaps beginning a family, perhaps moving on in your career, perhaps considering buying a house, perhaps taking your kids to a soccer game or to the local hockey arena, or taking your mom or dad to the hospital, it's going to affect you, because it's profound. There are too many of us, and we're, again, not talking today about the things we should have been talking about 20, 30, 40 years ago.
That's a very good point that I wanted to touch base on here, Bob. So you have a very unique position in the fact that you've been involved with Edmonton politics for such a long period of time. What have you seen that's changed focus, or that you would like to change a focus on, that maybe hasn't been in the limelight, other than obviously the things that you've been talking about, but maybe the general feel of Edmonton politics? Do you feel people are getting involved differently now than they were?
I don't I don't think people here are getting involved differently than they were. You have to remember, and I'm not optimistic in a lot of ways, but I remain here because I am optimistic. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't optimistic.
For sure.
Edmonton, I believe it's Edmonton, and I'm pretty sure on this, Edmonton has the lowest voter turnout in the history of Canada. Our voter turnout is typically between 25 and 30%. A footnote, in '92, I believe it was, we had 12 city-sponsored all-candidate forums, and we had one of the highest voter turnouts in the history of Edmonton. That told me that people still want to touch each other. That told me that in as much as this has value, that's what people want. They long to touch each other. They want to be in a community hall with each other where they can see each other discussing and expressing these points of view. This doesn't do that. For the young folks, this doesn't do that. The failure of some great movements that have taken place in the past 5 years are by virtue of we thought this was communicating, and it wasn't. We had never spoken to each other, so we saw a massive movement of people rise. 24 hours later, it was over, and you went, gee, what just happened? And you go, well, nobody ever talked to anybody else. We didn't know what to do. We created this vision by virtue of a flash mob, but after the flash mob was over, it was all gone. Why? Because we had never spoken to each other. It's more important now than ever that we engage each other. And in regards to the city and the election itself, it's a remarkable failure. I think this time we have 3 city-sponsored organized events. There should be a dozen. There should be one in every community in the city, east, west, north, and south. And everyone's willing to do it, and everyone wants to do it, and the people want to engage it. It's been proven and proven and proven. And when we step back and back and back, the first thing that happens is the voter turnout reduces, it goes down.
Absolutely. Well, these are all core values of what we're trying to do here with yegnation. Again, vote. So one other thing I really wanted to ask you here, because again, Bob, you've got a really unique perspective, and I think that a lot of people can gain a lot of knowledge from the experiences that you've had over a number of years being involved with Edmonton economics, with being a business owner in Edmonton. That's a really amazing thing here. Us being here in your place of business, this is really awesome. So what would you tell somebody that may think that their voice may not make a difference?
I think if you think it's cool not to vote, it's not. Is it radical not to vote? It's not. Ooh.
No worries.
I don't know whether I'll get through it. It's the most important thing you'll ever do. One vote makes a difference. Elections are called on 10 votes. If you're part of 5,000 people, you're pretty significant in that sense.
Yeah, and that's why I'm here. I mean, that's what I wanted to do, right? And I mean, the fact that you've been putting time and effort into this for a great portion of your life. That's a lot. That's a lot. It means a lot, and it should mean a lot to the Edmonton community.
It does and it should, and you're feeling yourself if you don't, and if things happen. Our failure has been in this city, in my opinion, allowing the developers to run the city. We're sitting in front of a parking lot that we're going to, I think, walk out to and have a look at that's been there for 40 years. Why was it there and why isn't it there in another city? Because this city allows speculators and developers to come in, speculate. The economy crashes, and we have a parking lot that's gravel, six blocks from the city center of the capital city of what was one of the richest municipalities in the world. We have a 1 block long gravel parking lot. Why? Because we have let developers decide what we're going to do next. When we were looking at expanding the LRT using decommissioned rail lines in the early 90s, we had developers telling us what and where we were going to build what, and we lost the opportunity to build on the north side. And I'll qualify that by saying the south side has always been difficult. But on the north side, I would argue based on, and I can show you, based on what was available in decommissioned rail lines, we probably could have had LRT service to St. Albert within 2 years. just as an example. There were other opportunities there that we missed completely because developers were running the show. And it's just like the Ice District downtown. The first question to Mandel when I was running with him a couple of years ago, I said, number one, what on earth are you doing with $600,000 running for mayor? You're running against me. And I had to say to him, you'd think you were running against Tommy the Buffalo Terminator Tomlinson or something. What are you doing with $600,000? And the other question was, what are you building a tunnel under EPCOR for? We have a tunnel that was designed and built into the system years ago that has been sitting there idle for years, looking forward to the development of an extension of the public transportation city in the city. What on earth are you building a tunnel under EPCOR for? And no one seemed to be able to answer that. And to this day, no one seems to be able to answer that. And again, of course, I look forward to people looking at the article that young fellow Tim put forward regarding the information that he was able to acquire by virtue of access to information. I find it remarkable that we have to go through access to information to find out information that your councillor and your mayor should be sharing with you before these decisions are made. Everything that this article represents regarding the public transportation, and in particular the arena line, which goes to Nate, has to do with the information that you should have had before anybody made a decision. The line is a failure because it wasn't meant to service Nate. It was meant to service the arena. Everything had to look good for the arena. And why did that happen? Don't even blame the mayor. Blame the mayor before, but don't even blame the mayor before. Go to Mr. Bettman in the NHL. Bettman walks into Edmonton and he says, this is what you got to do or we're going to move the hockey team. And is this big? Darn right it's big. They just wasted $2 billion of your money building this thing over here. It's big. And the mayor signs off on it. Do you know what Nenshi said in Calgary when Mr. Bettman came to Calgary? Nenshi said, we don't need Mr. Bettman to tell us what we need in Calgary. We'll decide what we need in Calgary.
Those are important things.
Those are important things to talk about, and we have failed. And we failed in part because we didn't vote. We didn't get involved in what was going on. We didn't demand answers to questions. And again, I take my hat off to this young fellow that got the information regarding the arena line because I couldn't get it. I was trying to get it for years and I couldn't access it because I wasn't smart enough to answer or to ask rather the right questions. And he was, and he did, and hats off to him for it. And if 10,000 people don't read that, I'm at a loss. If one person reads it and they don't pass it on to 10 other people, I would be at a complete loss. It's a remarkable article. It explains why you're hearing what you're hearing about the Edmonton, they call it the Metro line, but it's the arena line. Tim Querengesser, and I hope I pronounced that right, a magnificent, brilliant young individual, and he has a blog. Go to his blog, for goodness sake.
So could you tell people where to find that online? So it's on Tim Querengesser's website, or
Querengesser's, yeah, his website. And I strongly encourage you to have a look at this article, and it's going to explain an awful lot about what's happening regarding current affairs in Edmonton.
For sure. We're going to make sure that we get the link added in there here. So actually on that note, this is actually perfect here. I think this is going to be a good time to go and check on the parking lot that you're talking about.
Sure, let's go have a look at the parking lot. There we are.
All right, Bob, well, I'll let you do the honors. You know this better than anyone.
Yeah, there it is. So this gravel parking lot has been here for 40 years, and this here was our warehouse district. This building here, these were beautiful warehouses. Edmonton, like every other city in Canada, was a railroad city. So where Grant McEwen is, of course, there was 5 or 10 tracks there. That was the central station for Edmonton, the CN Tower, whereas where people came into Edmonton on the train. Do you know where people come into Edmonton on the train now? In a field by the Yellowhead Trail. They don't even have ETS service to the train station. Welcome to Edmonton. And we moved the bus depot out there. So why did we move the bus depot out to the highway with no bus service? Well, let's see. Who comes and goes from the bus depot? Do you think it's Daryl Cates? Do you think Daryl Cates comes and goes from the bus depot? Well, I don't think so. Let's think about the people that come and go from the bus depot, from different places in Alberta across the country, and that is the regard we have for them. Let's get these people out of the city center, and let's get them out there. And if we keep them out there long enough, maybe they won't come back and bother us again when we have the ice district built. The ice district is one of the most racially motivated, disturbing events to take place in the modern history of this city. And for the mayor to come forward with some concern about Frank Oliver, well, Mr. Mayor, where were you a couple of years ago when I sent you a letter about those things? You don't even get a response from the guy, and now all of a sudden it's pop culture Frank Oliver and everybody's on it. But where were we 20, 30, or 40 years ago about Frank Oliver and about Emily Murphy? Where were we about these things 20, 30, 40 years ago? We were nowhere. Where were we about Native folks, the difficulties Native folks face in the city? Well, 97th Street was the border in my whole life. 97th Street's still the border. You can keep the Native folks over here and everybody else gets to play over here, and that's it. And I'm sorry, that's the way it is. And if you think Mr. Iverson's going to change that, he's not. Did you hear the comments he made with regards just to the Frank Oliver situation? He said, well, the Puppets Chase were paid, or the Enoch were paid tens of millions of dollars. That was the first thing that came out of his mouth. The Enoch Nation was paid tens of millions of dollars to appease the injustice done to them by Frank Oliver in the city of Edmonton. That was the first thing that came out of his mouth. And you go, well, Mr. Iveson, is everything okay then? We have reconciliation? Well, good on you. I don't agree. So I'm here now for that. And do all of these things connect? They do all connect. We've made some terrible mistakes and we continue to do them. And I'm going to stay involved as long as I have to bring these things to the attention of everyone. And we're going to do the best job that we can of bringing these things to the attention of everyone. And they affect us all. With regards to the young folks, the biggest surprise you're going to have, and this is everybody included, is us. Because in 5-10 years, there's going to be a whole bunch of us. And I don't know what you're going to do economically or otherwise. So I think you should vote. I think it's important. I think it's paramount that you vote. One vote makes 100% of every difference.
I think that's a hugely important thing to end on here. Bob, thank you so much for joining us here on Yegnation. Guys, get out and vote. The next election's on October 16th. It's Monday, October 16th. Get out, make a difference here. Talk to people. People like Bob will answer your questions here. We want to hear from you. Take it easy.